ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ 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 ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ.
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example. Like in Calgary, I went to Calgary, in Canada. And where are you guys from anyway? Calgary. The eyes have brightened up there. They were like, I was like, just better ask. So Gurdwara Singh, he's a Pradhan at the moment, yeah? Young guy. He's a friend of mine. Before he became the Pradhan, he asked me to come over and to come and talk and try to encourage that organization and to move them forward. So in Calgary, there's this, you might have seen him. This Muslim guy comes and sits right at the front.
I've heard of him.
You've heard of him, yeah? He's famous out there. He comes, sits right at the front. I'm not talking like, like in the Sangha somewhere amongst the blokes. He sits right at the front of the male side, but because it's like left and right, he sits on that corner there, so everybody in the female side can see him as well. And he'll sit there, right at the front, and he'll be with his tasbih, frantically going through it, like really fast, and he'll be like putting his hands up and praying and speaking, he's just mumbling the whole time. He's not listening to what's going on. He's right at the front, and it's quite distracting, he's got his hands up. But he comes here all the time anyway. So yes, anybody can come to. I gave you the examples earlier about how, for example, in Bombay and in New York, when the Muslims came into Gurdwara to pray, because one, I think there was a fire somewhere, another way there was a flood. But also, in the riots in London, when Southall, well, anyway, the rioters never came to Southall because there was like 1,000 Sikhs on the street, yeah. But even if they did come on that, when on that time, the Muslims had to go to pray because it was that evening time. And they went inside the mosque, and the Sikhs said, "Don't worry, brother, you go. We'll guard your mosque." And there was outside the mosque, there was a whole parade of Sikhs standing outside the mosque, so you can't come here either. So we still have that idea that we're for everybody, not just for ourselves. We're sarbat tapala. That's our ardas, the good of everybody. So we have that concept, but you're right that society tends to separate outwards. I'll tell you my example. When I was in the army on Sandhurst, which is the officer training school, you have to go to school, you have to go to church every Sunday. Now, the one option, if you're not Christian, they have this room where you can just go sit in. It's like TV and stuff. And I found that fairly boring, right? So I was like, TV or church, I'll go to church. So every Sunday I'd go to church, I'd sit there, and it was a bit strange, standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down, going on your knees, standing up, sitting down. And I was like, but I was interested in it, and I would sing the hymns, because they're all written out and printed out, given to you. I would sing them, and I enjoyed it. Yeah. Many a time I'd be having a tear in my eye, and the guy next to me looking at me like, he's not even a Sikh, what's he doing? He's not even a Christian. My soldiers would wonder, what am I doing? When I got to my regiment, they had Sunday church, I'd go on church as well then. I found it that it's a place of God. I don't have a problem with it. And Sikhs are still like this. We still think that way, there's only one God. Yeah. And so I would feel awkward when I go into a church with my shoes on. I was like, this is a bit weird. Take my shoes off, shouldn't I? Cover my head. I hear I walk in their shoes, I'm like, oh, how do they do this? Yeah. Like when I was at university, my college was a Catholic college, and I'll leave my shoes outside and go inside and sit down and do my part sometimes. Because I was looking for a quiet place to do prayers. Couldn't find a place sometimes. I'll go pray in the church. So I know that God don't mind. And God prefers places that people have prayed at, for you to pray at. And many Sikhs have bought Gurdwara in this. Gurdwara used to be churches before. We're like, brilliant. Not because you want to convert Christians, but because that place already had spirituality there. You already had people trying to praise God. And that place is beautiful because God is praised. Yeah? So we haven't got this system. But it is hard. In today's society, we've all divided ourselves off. Say, oh, it's ours, it's yours. It's yours, it's ours.
Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru.